What the fuck?
Movie review, movie review, movie review, review, fuck you!
Have you ever been a nanny?
This is my first live-in job.
Well, I hope you know what you're doing. The children are very special, Kate.
The turning is... The turning is a piece of shit is what it is. This movie was just a complete fucking letdown and a giant piece of fucking mastodon shit. I will say this though, it does have two things at least going for it. It's well acted and it looks pretty. That's it. They got at least 2/3 of what makes a good movie good. You got great performances from Finn Wolfhard, Mackenzie Davis, the younger actress, and even the old British lady, I can't remember her name. They all did their roles exceptionally well, especially Finn Wolfhard, who, man, he's a creepy little fuck in this movie. And big props too to Mackenzie Davis, who I really bought the fact that she was this sort of tormented person. And, you know, you could see her slowly kind of losing her shit as the movie goes along, as she's getting more and more tormented. The story itself is a fucking train wreck. Now, for those of you who don't know what The Turning is, it is like the 50th interpretation of The Turn of the Screw, which is like an old Gothic story from the 1800s. And it involves a governess who is taking care of these two children at this house, and they are being tormented by spirits. And this movie just fucking pisses and shits and vomits all over that fucking story. Now, I'm not gonna worry about spoiling anything for you, because if you were on the fence about this movie, or you were kind of unsure if you really wanted to see it or not, just don't waste your money. Let me be the one to die for your sins here. Like, right from the jump, the movie feels like it has almost two different beginnings. Where the movie originally began is where I believe Kate, our main actress, played by Mackenzie Davis, shows up at the house to assume her governess duties. But the beginning we got instead was showing the former governess being chased out of the house, either by a ghost or by a person, and she ends up getting killed at the gates. Okay, if that's the way they wanted to start it, but once you go through the whole movie and you look back, that beginning was so fucking stupid. And you know, I hate nitpicking little details and shit like that, but when a movie this bad, you can't escape it. But that beginning was just so stock and cliche. This movie just falls into some of the same trappings that most modern horror movies today do. It browbeats you over the skull, reminding you that, hey, idiot, you're watching a horror movie. Did you forget? You're watching a horror movie.
Hello? Anybody home?
Like, I appreciate horror movies that are slow burns. I appreciate horror movies that build up the atmosphere first. That's especially key, in my opinion, when it comes to these gothic sort of horror tales. You want to lull the audience into a false sense of security. You want to build that sort of like false trust that everything is normal and everything appears normal on the surface. And then you start dropping in the little nuggets of weirdness or the supernatural, like maybe there's more going on than meets the eye. And then you slowly start finding out more as the main character finds out more. It's like opening up one of those like Russian nesting doll things. But instead, this movie just kind of shoves it all down your throat, and you're not left with any sort of... You're not left kind of trying to figure things out for yourself. And then the movie throws a magnificent stupid twist at the end of this movie, which I'll get to in a second. And again, I don't like harping on little details, but it's those little details that eventually add up. And for me, I just can't look past some of these things. They just stick in my fucking head. The cheapest nitpick out of all of them, number one, nobody in the United States in the 90s drove a car like that. That's just fucking no. And jumping off from that, number two, this movie was set in the 90s in the United States. I believe it was Maine. But you could tell there's like a drastic change in scenery from when she is leaving to go to the house and then she arrives at the house. It looks like it goes from 90s USA to about 70s England. But one of the bigger things in this movie is that Finn's character Miles, he gets expelled from school and he shows back up in the middle of the fucking night. What the fuck was that? Now, like, it's never explained if he came home earlier in the day and he was just kind of hiding out or anything. He shows up back home and it's like fucking midnight or very early in the morning. What the fuck? And probably the most laughable part of this movie from a style standpoint are the ghosts themselves. Oh my God. There's no way to describe it. It just looks bad. I would have rather had sheet ghosts in there than what they ended up going with for the ghosts in this movie. It just looked fucking bad. I know I'm all over the place with this review. I apologize. So if you're hanging in there, thank you. And you know, another thing, going back and thinking about it, there were some character decisions in this movie that it just didn't make any sense. At one point, Mackenzie Davis looks like she has had enough. She's gonna leave, but then she just inexplicably stays. If it were me or any other rational, sane person in real life, I believe we would have all been like, peace, deuces, I'm out, fuck you guys, I'm done. But she stays. And she stays because she said she made a promise to the little girl, which I get it. It's meant to be this sort of like sweet little thing, and you know, oh, well, she really does care. Fuck that. I don't care how much you care. You would have been gone. Anybody in this situation would have been fucking gone. As much as she gets tormented and harassed and literally physically harassed and mentally abused by these fucking kids and these fucking ghosts and this fucking house, she would have been fucking gone. But I guess if she left, we wouldn't have a movie. So, not that this movie is barely a movie anyway. Like I said, there's a lot in this movie that was bad, but I will focus on the one thing that completely shot this movie right to fucking hell, and that is the ending to this movie. You know, last year when I saw the Pet Sematary remake, I said that was probably the worst ending to a movie I had ever seen. But I'll be damned, The Turning gives that a run for its money, and it might actually be worse. With Pet Sematary, at least the movie had an ending that did make sense. Even though I hated it, it made sense. With The Turning, I don't know. I don't know how the director looks at this and signs off on it and goes, yeah, that's good. To give a little context for the ending of this movie, you got to kind of go back to the beginning, and we find out there that Kate has a mom who's institutionalized, and you know, they kind of set up the fact that she's worried about kind of going a little crazy herself. So, you know, jump forward to the end, which, by the way, is one of the dumbest final sequences I've ever seen in a movie. It is laughably bad, and once again the CGI with the ghosts is horrendous. But Kate more or less finds out that the spirits in this house have sort of this control over the kids, and she figures if she can get them off of the property, it'll break the hold that these spirits have. So she gets the kids in her car and she's driving out, and it's this big tense sequence of her leaving, and she leaves, and then all of a sudden it like immediately cuts back to like 20 minutes earlier in the movie to a scene to where, you know, it's setting up the fact that maybe this is all in her head. There aren't really ghosts. She's just seeing shit. And God, is it fucking stupid. We already know there's ghosts there. There are ghosts there. But now this movie is trying to say it's all in her head? Or at the very least, there are ghosts there, but she's also crazy. It is such a what the fuck thing to end this movie on that I was aghast sitting there watching the credits of this movie. I was almost dumbfounded in shock watching the credits of this movie, wondering and processing what the fuck I just saw. And I actually stayed for the credits thinking that maybe there'd be something hidden, that maybe there'd be like a little nugget in there, like, oh, well, here's something you missed. Nope, the movie just fucking ends, and that's it. But that was The Turning in a nutshell. God, what a piece of shit it is, and it's getting the fucking finger. This movie had so much potential to be enjoying and to be a lot of fun, but it is so fucking muddled and convoluted, and the story is an incoherent mess, and there's such a clash of style. And then comes the twist at the end of the movie that fails spectacularly and completely sinks this thing. I feel bad for the actors and the actresses involved. They really held this movie from being a complete shit show, but it wasn't enough to overcome the deficiencies of the story itself, which is just a fucking train wreck. Well, I hope you enjoyed my ranting over The Turning. God, was it bad, and I would recommend that if you do want to see it, just wait till it hits Netflix or streaming services. But if you've seen the movie, please comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm totally off base? Or is this movie a giant piece of petrified mastodon shit, like I said at the beginning of this review? Anyways, like, comment, and subscribe. Adios, and GTFO!